Good evening and welcome back. Please take your seats and silence your cell phones. Please welcome back Dr. Chelsea Clinton.
Oh, thank you. I really want to kind of begin our closing plenary with a round of thank yous and gratitude. First, I want to thank all of you. Thank you for being here at CGIU with all of us. I hope that we will see many, if not all of you, at the Day of Action tomorrow. I want to thank the Vanderbilt students who've been such a warm and welcoming group to our students from around the country and across the world. I want to thank Chancellor Diermeyer and the entire administration of the university who worked with our team at the Clinton Foundation to kind of bring CGI University back in person and safely for the first time in a number of years. And so please also give a round of applause to the Chancellor and everyone here at Vanderbilt. I want to thank our extraordinary CGI University CEO, Regina Arrington, and her team. Oh yeah, thank you. For believing that we could come back together and that there is still something so important in the alchemy of being in shared space and community together, and also for having learned so powerfully what did work kind of through our virtual convenings, which really has helped now further inform kind of the curriculum from here forward. So incredibly grateful to Regina and the entire CGI University team. I want to thank everyone who's worked in production to ensure that our microphones work, that chairs get moved, that there are glasses of water and coffee. I want to thank our incredible team of sign language translators who've ensured that we are able to more fully communicate. I want to thank the people who are doing the transcription work, because I certainly never follow a script, so it's much harder because I get given like very nice prepared remarks, which I am grateful for because they spark kind of inspiration and reflection, although I never follow them. I want to just truly take a moment also in reflection, a moment of personal privilege of having the microphone to thank someone who is very sadly no longer with us and yet was such an important part of CGI and of CGI University, my friend and mentor and hero, Dr. Paul Farmer, who passed away just over a year ago, who taught me so much in his far too brief life about how to marry kind of activism and academia, kind of public health, medicine, anthropology, a lot of purposed anger and felt joy kind of for the work of making the world safer and more equitable and more just for everyone everywhere. And who also taught me very much about what it means to be an optimism. I sometimes have to work a little harder at being an optimist, I think, than I would wish for myself. But Paul and Jim Kim and Ophelia Dahl, the founders of Partners in Health, very much embodied kind of what Jim always called as optimism as a moral choice, that we make the moral choice to believe that our energy and our efforts, our ideas, our commitments to action can and will make our campuses, our communities, our countries, and our world a better place. That optimism is always kind of a healthier place to be, a more productive place to be, a more bold place to be, and certainly a place that is more likely than cynicism to lead to a different and better outcome for everyone, including us. And so while he is no longer here, I have been thinking about Paul a lot, and many of our CGI University alums have been sharing their memories of having met Paul at previous meetings, and thank you for sharing those with me, for giving me even more reasons to miss him and even more reasons to be grateful to him. And now I'd really like to welcome some of those CGIU alums to the stage to share updates on their commitments. I'd like to ask Sam Warwick, CGIU, class of 2017, founder and CEO of Next Step Health, to come to the stage, along with Lauren Richards, CGIU student from the 22 cohort, a student and researcher at the College of Global Futures and Barrett the Honors College at Arizona State University. Oh, okay, yeah. Feel free to applaud for them and your shared alma maters. Thank you. I don't know where you all are from, but you can come with me anywhere. Like, you have so much enthusiasm, the first 2 rows right here in center stage. Thank you for that. And last, certainly though not least, Daniel Villanueva, CGIU class of 2021, co-founder and CEO of Lucid Skies. So please all come to the stage and share what you've been up to.
Hi, my name is Sam Warwick. I'm the founder and CEO of Next Step Health, CGIU alum from the class of 2017 and CGIU mentor. When I was young, my older brother passed away from an interaction of medications he was prescribed. For a long time after this, I felt lost in grief and struggled to understand how this could have happened. I later learned that people getting the right support at the right time makes all the difference, and that the best treatment is prevention, in the form of upstream support for health literacy and access to quality care. While I was studying at the University of New Hampshire, I made the commitment to develop a software platform to help individuals and communities cultivate resilience by connecting people to care resources and tools to develop health literacy to navigate challenges before or after they arise. Today, Next Step Health's infrastructure bridges gaps in public health and education for communities across the US and beyond, mitigating downstream costs and preventable adversity. We partner with health and social service providers, educators, government agencies, and NGOs to facilitate greater access to resources to help people develop positive coping skills, stronger sense of self-worth, personal agency, and mental fitness. But throughout my journey of building Next Step, I've learned that channeling hardship and grief into productivity and community development is a service for which we all have potential, and through this, we can all create positive impact in our communities across the globe. I cover actionable insights on how to do this in a book I recently published called Take the Next Step, Harnessing Tenacity in the Face of Adversity. Thank you. But CGIU gave my idea a platform early on and helped it grow to meaningfully meet a national challenge. And I'm excited to see where all of your ideas take you as you take the next step in your commitment to action journeys. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Lauren Richards. I'm from the CGIU class of 2022. I've recently returned from a 3-week expedition to Antarctica through my university. And the sights, sounds, smells, and emotions are still at the forefront of my mind. The Earth is a home for all of us to love, cherish, and care for. I've long been concerned with climate change. Through respectful education, discourse, and lived experience, I believe that everyone can play a pivotal role in mitigating climate change and achieving sustainability. My original commitment to action was to develop a model of climate change education awareness through a partnership with Communities of Faith in Florida. After securing $24,000 in scholarships, grants, and a $5,000 scholarship through the Gilman Scholarship, I was able to experience the transformative properties of Antarctica for myself. Since then, I've been able to broaden my view from a faith-based approach to an opportunity for access and empowerment. My commitment, the Living Earth Initiative, provides a 6-week curriculum focusing on environment, biodiversity, and climate systems, followed by immersive adventures through the world's most inspiring places. Our program emphasizes the inclusion of high school seniors, exceptional high school seniors, from underprivileged communities and underserved communities across the United States. With the help of our donors, we're able to provide access to this program and this experience at no cost to the students. The CGIU Community and Toolkit has helped me build a solid foundation for my commitment, and it's helped me make my dreams a reality. I know it will have the same impact on all of you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Villanueva from the CGIU class of 2021. I've always been interested in technology, but I had to teach myself because my high school didn't offer much in the ways of STEM education. From my experience, I know that acquiring a new language is not just a hobby, but for many, a matter of survival. Our first win happened very early in our CGIU journey, when my cousin Kevin and I were accepted into the first CGIU Verizon Social Innovation Challenge to develop a project that uses augmented reality to teach languages. True to CGIU's mission, the challenge seeks diverse social entrepreneurs to develop technology-based solutions to educational, health equity, and climate justice challenges. We're continuing to advance on the augmented reality technology so we can allow educators and artists to collaborate and share their creations. Our technology, now called Lucid Skies, enables new forms of creative expression and spreads social issue awareness by depicting both struggles and joys that others are unaware of. Since launching our augmented reality community, we have over 4 million people engaging with our augmented reality experiences. And I'm super deeply grateful for the support I had from CGIU. And I'm excited to continue growing this technology and community. And I know CGIU will also have a transformative impact on your communities as well. With passion and ambition, anything's possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please give Daniel and Lauren and Sam one more massive round of applause. And now it's my honor to introduce two people who certainly are optimists. One, I'm very proud to always call my dad, who certainly has proven his optimism through his kind of continued kind of reimagining of what is possible for our world and also for himself. What he kind of has done through his career of public service in elected office and subsequently is certainly an ongoing story that I find incredibly inspiring. And he will be joined by our most decorated track and field athlete of all time, the extraordinary Allyson Felix, and a 5-time Olympian, someone who has more medals than I imagined she actually could really wear at one time, someone whose kind of fight and determination for what is possible didn't stop when she retired from being an active track athlete, but just has continued as she has continued to use her platform to stand up for women in sports and particularly mothers in sports, fighting for kind of equitable treatment for women at every stage of their lives and their athletic journeys, including and particularly when they are expectant and new mothers. So I am so incredibly proud and grateful to know both of them, to call one of them my dad, to call another a friend, and know that I will learn a lot from their conversation and suspect that you will as well. Please join me in welcoming my father and Allyson to the stage. Thank you all.
I confess, I asked to do this. Because, first of all, unlike almost all of you here, I am old enough to have witnessed in real time all 5 of her Olympics. And And I'm an Olympics junkie. And I still remember watching Wilma Rudolph on live television. That's how old I am. But Allyson has done a remarkable thing. She was a triumphant athlete. She had to overcome adversity more than once. And in the end, she decided that being a public citizen was even more important than going along to get along. And so she caused what my friend, the late John Lewis, called good trouble. Said every now and then you got to make good trouble. So I wanted to talk about it and anything else. But tell us a little bit about when you first went to the Olympics, you were a youth phenom. And you won a silver medal, I think.
I did.
Were you thrilled or disappointed?
I was very disappointed. I was a teenager, and my mom, she was actually waiting for me at the finish line, and she was so upset because I didn't take a victory lap. But I didn't know that you were supposed to take a victory lap. I thought the victory lap was only for the winner. So I'm like, but my mom very quickly helped me put into perspective why I was very happy to win a silver medal at 18 years old. But yeah, that really lit a fire for me, and it gave me a taste of, what it was going to take, but also that it was going to require so much more to reach the next level. Because a little over 4 years before then, I was in high school, and I went out for the track team because I was at a new school and I didn't really know anyone. And so my family encouraged me. They're like, you should go out for the track team so that you can make some friends. And so I kind of just stumbled into it. I came out for the track team, and my first love was basketball. And so I wanted to be a basketball player, but it was very quickly apparent that that was just not the gift that I had. So I came out from basketball season, and I went to the track tryouts, and I have like baggy jeans on, and I have my favorite, you guys probably are too young, but Gary Payton glove, like basketball shoes. And the coach has everybody running 60 meters that day. And so I ran the 60 meters, and then he has like this very confused look on his face. And he's like, I'm going to need you to do that again. So I get back in line, and I go to run it again. And this time I met with that same confused look. And he whips out a measuring wheel. He like measures the distance back, has me do it again. And we go back and forth. And then he finally just pulls me to the side. He looks at his watch, and he's like, you are really fast. And it was kind of a whirlwind. 4 years later, I found myself in the Olympics, and that lit the fire for me.
And this is something a lot of people in different ways have to confront. Young people today have choices, and many of you live in places where for 2 or 3 generations, your parents or grandparents had choices. Many of you live in places where your parents or grandparents did not have a choice about what they did with their waking hours. But in general, in terms of the whole history of humanity, if you go back to 200,000 or so years of our human history and about 2.5 million years before, when our pre-human ancestors that were pretty much like us started rolling around, most people had no choice with what they did with their waking hours. They spent their waking hours doing whatever it was necessary to eat and feed their families. And so the thing I think is interesting, and I wish you could talk about it a little bit, is most people are happiest doing what they're best at because it makes you feel alive. Is that true for you?
It's true, yeah. I feel like being in your purpose definitely makes me feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I think it's interesting because I think I thought for a long time that my purpose was to win medals. I thought it was running fast, like that is, I had my head down, I didn't rock the boat, I did what I was supposed to do. And for the majority of my career, I thought, okay, this is the thing, I have this gift, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And then it wasn't until I started to go through some real life situations that I started to realize that I don't think that's my purpose. I think I'm here to do something more than run fast. I went through a situation where I started my family, and I wasn't fully supported through that the way I had hoped I would be. And from that moment on, I took on this fight along with other teammates and colleagues of mine to fight for maternal protections. And it was this really scary thing. It was this thing that was so far from what I know how to do. You know, I know how to run fast. I'm very confident in that. But this was something that was very different. It required me to use my voice, and it required me to be vulnerable and to speak my truth. And it was a very terrifying situation. But once I did that, I realized I'm actually living my purpose. Advocating for women and standing up for other people whose voice may not be as loud or they may not have the platform, I realized, like, this is why I'm here. This is why I have this gift, and it's to be able to do something more than that and try to create some change. So I thought I had that feeling, and once I experienced this, I was like, no, this is actually what makes me feel alive.
So describe what happened. First, you had challenges with your pregnancy.
Yes.
And at the same time, you had a sponsorship deal with Nike, which, when you became pregnant, as I understand it, fairly typical in track and field then, there was an attempt to renegotiate the deal, right? From your point of view, negotiate down. The analog for Hillary, for example, was when she went into law practice, if you went to work for a big firm and you decided to have a baby instead of work 60 or 70 hours a week, it often meant that women were permanently thrown off the partner track. So you were about to be thrown off the partner track. So tell us what happened.
Yeah, so I did what a lot of women do and have done in track and field. So I hid my pregnancy. I started to train at 4 a.m. when it was still dark outside so that nobody could see me, because at the time I was still going through these very difficult negotiations with Nike, and even before I disclosed my pregnancy, they were already offering me 70% less than what I had been making before. And so being in this sport and seeing what women had gone through for so long, I feared that I didn't have anything on paper yet, that I needed to get that first before I did disclose my pregnancy. And so I had a really difficult time, because this moment that should be so happy, that should be celebrated, it was really isolating for me, and it was really lonely. And so I eventually disclosed my pregnancy, and I turned my attention to asking for maternal protections. And basically that means in a track and field contract, it's set up in a way that you get bonuses and reductions. So you go to the Olympics and you win a medal, you get a bonus. You go and you don't, you get a reduction. If you have a baby, there's nothing in place to protect you. So essentially I was asking for time to get back to top form once I had my baby, and not just time for myself, but for all female athletes. And I was told that I could have time, but that they weren't ready to set that precedent for all female athletes. And that's, for me, what wasn't okay. And I had this moment, I remember it very vividly. I was in my daughter's nursery, because this went on for a long period of time. I ended up giving birth, and I'm in her nursery, and I'm looking at her. And I just said, I cannot let her and her generation deal with the same thing. And that was kind of the last push I needed to say, I'm going to speak about this, I'm going to share what I've been through, and really try to stand up and try to create some type of change.
And you had to deal with a non-disclosure agreement, didn't you?
I was actually in an interesting position. So many women before me, they all had NDAs, and so that's why this issue wasn't out in the public. But for me, because I was in between, I actually didn't. And so that also pushed me forth in saying, if it's not going to be me, I actually have this opportunity to come out and not have to deal with that. Yeah.
A lot of people would have gone for the money, though. So how did you feel the first time you started speaking about this in public? And was it scarier than the first time you ran a big-time race? Or was it just different?
Oh, it was so much scarier. I was absolutely terrified. I mean, I'm like a person who is shy by nature. I told you I don't like to rock the boat. I'm a people pleaser. And so this was so far outside of my comfort zone. I didn't know. And I was also really scared because obviously this is a massive company. And I knew that I still wanted to run. So I had a lot of fear if I was ever going to have a sponsor again, if I was going to be able to, return to competition and be supported. And so I wasn't really sure what that outcome was going to be as well.
So how long did it take to work back out? How many more, was it still going by the next Olympics?
No, so after I came out with that op-ed, it was about 3 weeks later that Nike changed their maternity policy. And so today they offer 18 months for all female athletes. Yeah, so, and then from there, I still knew that I was like, I can still run. Like, I'm a mother now, yes, but it's not over. And so I had parted ways with the company, and I was left without a footwear sponsor. And I was having this conversation with my brother, who I work with as well. But I was talking to him as my brother, and I was telling him, like, I am just so tired of begging companies to see my worth and to see my value and for me to be able to show up as my full self. And he looked at me and he was like, well, why don't we just do this ourselves? And I'm like, okay, you mean like build a shoe company? That seems massive. But the more that I just listened to his words and I sat with it, I understood what he was saying. And he was saying, here's an opportunity that we can create change instead of asking someone else to do it. And so we did. We created a company called Saysh, and it is a footwear company that makes shoes designed for women. And so what we thought we were doing was creating shoes so that I could have to wear in the Olympics, and maybe other women would want to stand with me and wear them. But once we went down that path, we learned that shoes are made off of a last, which is a mold, and it's the mold of a man's foot used to make women's shoes, women's sneakers. And I was just appalled by that. I was like, I've been a professional runner for all these years, I never knew that. And so our company designs our shoes to fit the form of a female foot. And more than that, thank you. And more than that, we think women deserve better. And so we make shoes, but our company is just so much bigger than that. We're a community, and we just want to do things in a different way. We have a maternity returns policy, which basically, not everyone knows that, but when women become pregnant, oftentimes their shoe size can change, and that change in size can be permanent. And so our company will give you, if you have a pair of our shoes, we'll give you your new size if your size has changed due to pregnancy. And so we just want to think about things different and really show up for women.
What's the main difference between a woman's foot and a man's foot in terms of shoes, racing shoes?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of differences. If you think of kind of your body and your feet as the foundation, like of a house, and we have a more narrow forefoot. Our heel can be different because when women wear heels, their Achilles can shorten in as short as 6 months. Our weight is often different, and shoes have been built off the average weight of a man. So there's all these things that we just address, and when you put on our shoes as a woman, it feels different. And we think that, yeah, we shouldn't be an afterthought. We should be creating a product specifically for a woman.
One of the things that always struck me is that you did so consistently well, even when you went through challenges with winning individual races, you always did well in the relays. Why do you think that is?
I love being a part of a team, and I love to show up for my teammates, and it's hard sometimes, when when individually you don't reach that goal. But I love the way that the Olympics is because it always ends with a relay. And for me, it's some of my most favorite races because no matter what happened to you individually, if it was an amazing, competition or not, I knew that I was going to close out with my teammates. And although we were fierce competitors, oftentimes with each other, to be able to come together for a common goal, it's just the best thing. And I think, that applies just to life. You work on all these different teams, there's all these different dynamics, but when you have that goal of bringing a gold medal home for your country and you want to make everyone proud, it's really fun to come together to do that.
I think a relay is a better metaphor for most of what we should be doing in life.
Yeah.
Because even if you're the best there ever was at whatever it is you're doing, time passes, and then you have to leave something behind.
Yeah.
Somebody else needs to be able to pick up a torch or a stick or whatever it is you're relaying with. Don't you?
I completely agree with that, and I love that.
I remember once a friend of mine who was then 75, and I was much younger. I ran into him at the airport, and I asked him what he was doing there. He said he was waiting for his sister because his older sister had just died. And I said, I'm sorry. He said, she was a wonderful woman, and I was thinking about something we did in the first grade, 70 years earlier. And he looked at me and he said, Bill, don't ever forget this. It doesn't take long to live a life. So we all need to be thinking about the relay races we can run. Yeah. And you want to be able to close strong.
Yeah.
So what do you think, what are the major challenges now that women in professional sports face? And to what extent did the maternal health issues you face inform what you do now?
Yeah, there are a lot of issues that we want to improve upon, whether that's equal pay, visibility, having that interest really driven up. There are a lot of things happening right now. I think my whole exposure to maternal health, I had a very difficult birth experience, a life-threatening one, and my daughter spent a month in the NICU, and I think it just opened my eyes to so much of the hardship and the struggle, and it made me want to say, what can I do? How can I come alongside, whether it's organizations who've already been doing work in this space, and how can I just advocate for women and families better? And so it really gave me that push. And then it also showed me that I can have an effect as well. And so it has really just given me motivation and passion to do those things. This past season, I really shifted my attention and focus to providing childcare for women athletes who are competing at the highest level so that they don't have to choose between the sport they love and family. And so I really think it was my own experience that really encouraged me and gave me the confidence to go out and try to change some of those things. And so I'm going to hold on to that, and there's a lot of work to do, but I also feel like it's a really special time for women in sports. There's a lot of momentum, and we're much stronger together. There's power in the collective, and so I feel very hopeful for the future.
That's good. I keep reading these politicians saying women's sports are doomed. I don't think that. It seems to me that it's getting stronger. So if you could fix 2 or 3 things, quite apart from the child care thing issue, which I agree with you about, obviously, but what would you do in what order for women in sports, either economically or healthcare-wise?
That's a heavy one. I would say equal pay for women in sports. I think it's long overdue, and across the board, it's necessary. And in regards to maternal health, my dream for the future is to be able to, for women, no matter your background or where you come from, to be able to find out you're pregnant and not to have any fear associated with that, not to be concerned if you're going to live to mother your child. Having a holistic approach to maternal care and being able to have a choice in that. So those would be both at the very top of my list of things to get done.
Before we came out here, we had an interesting talk about that, and I'll throw this out there so those of you who care about this can think about whether I'm crazy or whether there's something to it. I guess the two were not inconsistent, but anyway. Allyson and I were talking about the data showing, how much maternal mortality is going up in many places in the United States, and relatively speaking, how high the rate is for our country as compared with others, and about the racial and ethnic disparities. But what I told her was that I spent a lot of time with our foundation on something called the Alliance for a Healthier Generation, which is designed to both reduce severe obesity and increase health care among school children. And what I noticed a few years ago was it was the first study I'd ever seen like this, and I've never seen any reference to it much since. There was a multi-year study of different ethnic groups based on all the groups within groups, having the same diet and the same exercise program, or no diet and no exercise. But they divided it up, and they found out that given a constant diet and a constant exercise program, Latinos were almost twice as likely to develop type 2 diabetes. Blacks were twice as likely, and Asia Pacific Islanders were 2.5 times as likely. And nobody could quite figure out why. But it was, as I said, they controlled for diet and exercise. We know that 100 years ago, that Asian Pacific Islanders had the highest caloric intake per capita because so many made a living standing in powerful ocean tides catching fish. But I think that one of the things that all of you who care about this ought to be thinking about is whether we have fully maximized what we know or can find out quickly from the human genome sequencing and applying it to maternal health problems. Because it's really scary to me that the rates are so high. And they're, like in my native state, Arkansas, I believe that the rates are considerably higher than they were when I was a governor first in the late 1970s, and Hillary and I got in trouble and were called communist wreckers because we thought that since when they're on all these rural areas where there were no pediatricians and no OBGYNs, that we should have nurse midwives that were properly trained. And there was blood on the floor. I mean, one doctor even said he preferred having no care at all to that. It was terrible for people. But then when the mortality rate went way down, everybody started singing a different song. Now we know that sometimes these things that seem self-evident, even if you do them, they don't necessarily produce the results you want. So I would say this is kind of like your running career. It's going to be continually exciting for the next 10 or 20 years.
I'd agree with you for sure.
I think I can speak for the whole audience and say that we're glad you now have a task that you will not age out of.
I look forward to that one. I consider it a privilege.
Let's give her a big hand. Allyson Felix, she's great, huh?
All my life I've wanted to be involved with people, to help them with their problems. Politics has just given me a way to pursue my interest and my concern on a large scale.
I was about the third or fourth person in, and he started here, and I sort of muscled my way up, and it had a very profound impact on me. I think that, it's something that I carried with me always.
I'm Bill Clinton. And one of the reasons I want to be governor is to make sure that every child in this state has a chance to go to kindergarten.
Bill Clinton for Arkansas.
During all the years I was away at college and in England on the Rhodes Scholarship and at Yale Law School, I never intended to do anything but come home to Arkansas and do what I'd wanted to do since I was a boy. To be in politics and put what I'd learned to use here, to work with the people I'd grown up with to help make this state the kind of place it ought to be.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America. My fellow Americans, you too must play your part in our renewal. I challenge a new generation of young Americans to a season of service. I am an AmeriCorps member. And I am going to get things done. Yes. The thing I want most is for people to come to this library, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, liberals or conservatives, to see that public service is noble and important. I want young people to want to see not only what I did with my life, but to see what they could do with their lives.
President of the United States, an honorary bulldog.
The future of this country is riding on whether all of our children, without regard to their race or their background, can make the most of their God-given abilities. I personally believe that if the American people give you the honor of serving, you should keep on doing it when you leave office.
What I wanted to do was to extol public service, and I wanted people to understand it's a job.
The world that you now enter needs your service, compassion, and cooperation more urgently than ever. And it will become a better place because of your commitment to the common good. Public policy is important, but changing lives requires service too. But for all of us who are not in positions of political authority, the whole virtue of citizen activism is that you stop making excuses for not doing something just because you can't do everything. And if you look at what technology's done, what the internet has done, there are enough people in this room to move the world.
In serving, we recognize a simple but powerful truth. We need each other, and we must care for one another. You are sending the loudest message the whole world needs to hear today. Show up and serve.
Please welcome back President Bill Clinton and welcome the Mayor of Earle, Arkansas, Mayor Jalen Smith.
So this is an interesting occasion for me. This young man just turned 19. He was elected mayor of a little town in East Arkansas, Earle, at 18. And his his senior advisor, Steve Jones, is here. I cut a lot of my political teeth in his family's church in Earle many years ago, and he was at least as young as the mayor is when I met him first. So I've got a lifetime of history with this town, and I've watched what they've been through. And they represent small towns all over America that people love and want to stay in. And in conventional terms, they're having a hard time. Some people that believe that politics should be totally dictated by non-interventionist economics said, oh, that's just too bad, we should let it go. But there's something special about this town and a lot of towns. And a lot of people's identity is caught up in where they grew up and where they live, and if they don't want to leave it, should they be forced to by economic forces, or should somebody step into the breach? So here's Exhibit A of the second answer. Why'd you decide to run for mayor?
Well, before we get started, Mr. President, I want to say a little disappointed. You probably wondering why. Because you don't have an Earle jacket on. Have an Earle jacket on. But the why of why I got here of becoming the mayor of Earle. When I was a little kid, I always grew up helping, loving, and caring for senior citizens. And in particular at the time, my dream was to become an Arkansas State Trooper. But when I got to high school, I had two guys approach me and they asked me, I want you to join the student council organization. And at that time, I'm like, what is that? What is that? And so I went home, I looked in the mirror and I prayed. And when I looked in the mirror and I asked myself, do I believe within myself? And I jumped and I got on my knees and I prayed and God gave me to go ahead. So the next day, I joined that organization. And when I got in the organization, not only we changed the name from student council to student government, and we was the advocates for the best quality of education in high school. Not only we was advocates in making a difference in high school, we did the same thing in the community. And so one day in particular, me and my colleagues had a roundtable conversation on what we wanted to do after we graduated high school. I said, I want to be mayor, and I named a list, a whole lot of stuff, but in particular, I want to be mayor of the city of Earle, Arkansas. And so going into my senior year, I announced my campaign that I want to be mayor of Earle, Arkansas. I had the people like, what? You gonna be mayor at the age of 18? I'm like, yeah. And so I proved to those people that I want to be mayor by going around shadowing different mayors throughout the state of Arkansas, get a day-to-day expectations and experiences as a mayor. And so going into my campaign, I worked from January 1, which I announced my campaign, until December 6, which I won in a runoff election. And going around talking to senior citizens about my plans was public safety, economic development, and infrastructure. And it was like, well, everybody run on that. So I broke my campaign down into the specifics of public safety, beautification, abandoned houses, new houses, public transportation, grocery store, water and sewer systems. But I want to face those challenges. I feel like that was hurting us the most. And when I was going around, I was listening. The people I couldn't get, I sent their grandchildren to them to get them. And so I got people registered to vote. I was very passionate, dedicated, and committed into doing what I was doing. And I had a lot of negative comments and feedback from people, but I didn't let those negative comments and feedback distract me, because I knew that I was going to have it, but I continue to keep my eye on the prize. And so that's why I got here. Yeah.
So one of the things you said you would do if you got elected mayor is stop Earle from being a food desert.
Yes, sir.
What did you mean by that, and what are you trying to do?
So what I mean by Earle is a a community of 2,000 people where we're facing a food desert, which we did have a grocery store a couple of years back, then it closed. So now as the mayor, I'm trying to do everything in my power to, like now on March 15th, I have a food drive going on within the community to have prepackaged food boxes so we can give to the community because we're facing, and we have the challenges of having a grocery store because we're driving 20 miles to West Memphis, Marion, or Jonesboro, or even Wynn to get groceries. And I feel like that we had a grocery store within the community, why not bring it back? And so I knew that it was going to be a struggle getting that grocery store when I was speaking to my state legislators and former Representative Steve Jones, my senior advisor. And it was like, well, it's going to be a struggle. And I told them that I would rather go through the struggle than not do anything. And looking to those different resources by reaching out to different organizations like the Walton Foundation and other organizations and foundations to get what are some ways they could help us bring that grocery store in. But now it's been at a standstill, but we're still fighting the fight to get in that grocery store in the community.
And when they say, but the customer base is not big enough, what do you say?
When they say that, I just kind of like, I just kind of go in my mode of, it's like I go into a mode of where I wish we could have it because our city is a municipality community where we don't have a lot of opportunities. And with my conversation with them, just give us a chance, just come out and look. Because basically look on people, how much income they get, and it kind of changed their minds based off the income people get. And a lot of times also in the community, people don't have a lot of jobs there. And so we're facing a job with jobs, but the main thing is that giving us a chance to surveying the community and ask them, if we did get a grocery store, how many people within the community would shop in that grocery store? And that kind of opened up a door for them, like, okay, we're more interested. So, yes, sir.
And you also, in all the big urban areas of America, crime's a big issue again now because the economy's opening and a lot of the support systems we use to prevent crime eroded during COVID. But in a place like Earle, your first commitment has to be able to respond
right
around the clock, right?
Yes, sir.
So this guy gets elected mayor partly by going door to door telling them somebody will answer the phone if they call after 9 o'clock.
Yeah. With our public safety issue, when I came in office, we didn't have a full staff police department, nor now we still have we don't have a 24/7 police department. But of the ways that can bridge that gap is one, having a full staff. We have 4 full-time officers and 2 part-time that our budget allows us to have. And so we're kind of stretching them thin. And so our first officer come on at 8 a.m. to 12 midnight to the next day. And so we know that we still have obstacles and challenges that we're facing within our public safety area, but we're not letting that out. But money in our community that we don't have, we're looking at other sources and different funding like grant funds for public safety that the DOJ is giving out, that I just actually received that grant like 2 weeks ago. But the thing is, we have our council members that kind of afraid to proceed with that grant because they feel like that the city cannot, in 3 years, that we won't be able to sustain those officers. But as mayor, I feel very confident in 3 years, the city will be halfway what it is now to kind of improve that area of public safety because we know that public safety is very important. But Earle, now we don't have much crime, but we want to make sure when crime does happen, we have people there people there that can respond to those calls quickly and effectively. And so it's not just in Earle that it's a challenge nationwide of getting good officers to come in the community and do great things because policing is all about working with the people. And so our police department went from a police department to a community-oriented police department, which that not more so that we just have police officers, but we have community members that's watching neighborhoods to kind of make sure that with people not wanting in the area or in the community, the neighborhood, they call in the police. So basically that the people and the police can work together to decrease crime so crime won't occur in those areas.
What about I read you have a drainage issue there.
Yes.
It's in the Mississippi Delta, by the way, so it's in the middle of farm country. And the good news is you get plenty of water and it stays and you can grow food. The bad news is you can grow a lot of other problems too. So tell them what you're doing about that.
So Earle has been facing a drainage issue for years. And when I came into office, my first day of work was facing a flooding crisis. And so as a mayor going around examining why the flooding occurring, why this going on, half of the time the drainage wasn't even clean. So that's why a lot of the water was just a standstill. So when I came in office, I made it a mandate that every day we're checking drainages to make sure that water that can get out, it goes out. So we won't have those flooding. But now the Arkansas Black Mayors Association the state has gave them some money to kind of allocate to cities, basically in the Delta, municipality communities that are facing a flooding crisis. And so the more pictures that we have and that we give them, the better opportunity we can get that funding. And so that's kind of the source that we're waiting on. Actually, we're at a waiting position, waiting on them, but we're continuing to send those pictures in to them to get the opportunity.
Do you expect to get money out of this infrastructure bill and out of some of these the climate bill? You might be able to get some help on that drainage problem.
Right, yes, sir.
What about, tell them how you got elected and what you did calling mayors of bigger communities and asking if you could go around with them and see how they do their job.
Gotcha. So going back to January when I when I announced my campaign, and I had people took me as a joke, as I thought I was playing that when I said I want to be mayor of Earle. And when I went around and shouted those mayors in the state of Arkansas, some of them were shocked, surprised. But when I left them, they were very impressed with what I wanted to do. Because a lot of times when us as young people, we graduate high school, we tend to leave our communities and we go off to college, but we never return. But then when we do return, we expect a miracle to happen within our communities. But more so, how can the difference happen when you're not there to help make the difference and invest in the community? And so with going around meeting with those mayors, telling those mayors the issues and the challenge that we're facing in the Earle community, every day they call now asking what are ways they can help make Earle great. Because it's not an I thing in making a difference. It's a we. Not only within Earle, with me, it's a we thing. Matter of fact, as a nation, making a difference, everybody working together to move the nation forward. And not only the nation, but Earle forward. But when I was going around to talk to the citizens of Earle and the young people said, I want to change in my community. Because if change don't happen now, change will never happen. And when they told me that, it sounded so powerful at that moment to me. And to this day, it still does, because when you have one young person that's stepping out their own faith, regardless of what people tell them, they continue to keep the eye on the prize. And that's what I did. When people told me I was too young, I didn't know anything, and I just graduated high school, I didn't let that affect me, because I knew what my heart wanted me to do, and more so what the community wanted me to do as well, because they wanted somebody young in the community that's making a change, that's passionate, dedicated, and committed to moving and doing things in the community. And that what just made it so much greater to me, because I had days where throughout the campaign that I knew that I was going to have obstacles and challenges and distractions. But going back to high school, I had a principal to give me the blues for 3 years. But at the time I was going through what I was going through with her, now as I look back, it prepared me for a time right now. So with developing me and to keep me focused, what I do is I have somebody on my team that's always difficult. In any decision or idea that I have, I want them to be difficult for me, because I want them to prepare me to keep me sharp when somebody come at me. So when they come at me, I already got somebody that's doing it for me already, so I'm already prepared, So I'm already prepared for that. And
But you asked those other mayors for help. You asked the mayor of Little Rock to help, didn't you?
Yeah. I asked the mayor of Little Rock, mayor of Camden, mayor of El Dorado, Arkansas, and more cities in Arkansas, West Memphis, Forest City,
even smaller towns like Anthonyville, Edmondson, those mayors, because those, and Marion as well, because in Crittenden County, I have those cities that I collaborate more with those mayors, because even though those cities are bigger than what my city is, I'll never be afraid to reach out and ask for help, or what are some ways that they can help me. Because I have a lot of people say, well, they said it's bigger than you. What can they do for you? But in my head, I don't reply back, I just say thank you. And continue to go about my business, because it's not more so that they can help me. It's about who can they point me in the direction of that can help me. Because when I was growing up, I'm a networking guy. I've always liked to network. And so, more so, before I came here, this was my wardrobe, Mr. President. I went to school just like this with a suit and tie. And any rooms I went in to meet and talk with people, I worked the entire room. Even though I didn't know them, I just spoke to them, had conversations, and in the end, it benefited me based off just one conversation. Just initiated conversation, because I knew that I wanted to make a difference. But in order for me to make a difference, I had to network. I had to show up to meetings, city council meetings, quorum court meetings, legislative meetings, education committee meetings. All those meetings were open to the public. I was there. And by being there, my president actually spoke for herself, because at the time I was advocating for one particular issue. And when I was in high school, I had a learning disability. And more so, when I was in high school with that learning disability, it affected me. And I caught on to it when I got to 7th grade. And I knew that students with a learning disability didn't have hope or didn't believe within themselves. And for a long time, I had the same mindset. But when I caught on to it, a lot of educators, they're like, well, he's just talking. He don't know what he's talking about. But when the school, I always say, if you will make a great score on this state standardized test, we're going to take you to Incredible Pizza or to Chuck E. Cheese, etc. But we could never go. And I'm like, why can't I go? And I'm wondering, I'm just going back and forth, just frustrated. And then the entire time, the teachers were teaching us according to our IEP, but at the end of the school year, we had to take what's called a state standardized test. And educators knew that we would never pass that test. And I just got like, okay, I just got so frustrated, and I just challenged the entire state, the school. Matter of fact, when I was doing that, I got offered a full ride scholarship to any college in the state that I wanted to go to. But I did not accept that, because I knew that students with those disabilities suffer more so than our regular students. And they can be just as good as we can. They can be presidents, attorneys, but they just didn't have that hope, because they knew that they wasn't getting taught on grade level. But now this year, when I got out of high school, I almost got expelled my 12th grade year too, Mr. President. But going out my senior year, when I graduated high school, the state put those students back in the classroom to kind of help them learn better, than more so keeping them in the classroom where they're just learning according to the IEPs. So now they're back in the regular classroom with the students and learning just like them. Then more so, if they have any obstacles or challenges, they pull them back into the one-on-one room with the teacher and kind of help them that way. And so I'm very grateful that, just basically speaking up to make the change.
I think there are two lessons here relevant to everybody in this room. One is that he wasn't afraid to ask for help. He didn't convince himself before he asked that why should the mayor of the biggest city in the state give a rip about what's going on in his little town. And the other thing is, he pays attention. Didn't that strike you, all the things he paid attention to that most people his age don't pay attention to? There are a lot of things the rest of us don't pay attention to either, that may be small, that may have huge impact. So we thank you for sharing this time with us. I've already told you I'm going to try to help you on one of your projects.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
thank you.
and I owe it to your community. I have a deep and abiding debt. Like, I was thrilled that you came. And most important, I'm thrilled that you ran and you put your town on the map, and I think you're going to deliver for them.
Yes, sir. Now, we would love to have you to come back to visit the city.
I'd like to. That was on my goodbye tour when I was president. I went home to Arkansas and made the state. That was one of my goodbye stops was in Earle. Wow. Well, let's give him a big hand. That's great. Now, can I send everybody home? Or do I have to come out first? Yes, I can finish. See, I take orders just like everybody else. Well, tomorrow we're going to have a service day for all of you who can stay, and I hope you will. It's really important, and Chelsea's always taken a really big interest in it, but I try to do this every single time we have either CGI or CGI for university students, because I think we ought to practice what we preach. And every place we go, there's somebody that needs something. But I want to say how very grateful I am to Vanderbilt. They have been a great host, haven't they? It's just unbelievable what they've done. And it's been a particular thrill to me because of all the times I've been in Nashville over my life. I'm sorry Al Gore couldn't come, but he's away in California on business, trying to save the planet. And I'm very grateful to all of you. And I'm grateful to all of you who've made commitments. We're now up to about 700. And we want to help you keep them. And so if we can help after this is over, I hope you will stay in touch with us. Because I really do believe that diverse groups of people make better decisions than lone geniuses or just homogenous groups that think they know it all to start with. And I think we ought to follow the mayor's lead. None of us should ever be embarrassed to ask for help. All somebody can do is say no. You're nowhere further behind. And even if they say no, if you do it in a nice way, they'll feel bad about it and look for some way to help you later on down the road. So I hope you have had a wonderful experience. I have. I'm very proud of all of you and very grateful to all of you. And I wish you well. And let's keep going. Thank you.
Please make your way to the Recreation and Wellness Center for the CGIU Exchange Fair. Thank you.